12 for a genius. Haruhi wandered aimlessly after her talk with Fununo-sensei, turning around whenever she found herself on a path leading towards the Uchiha district. She didn't want to tell Sasuke of her failure, wasn't ready to see his disappointment at another setback. Procrastinating, she drifted through Konoha, passing Shio's apartment, then Tenten's house, then onwards until the tall village walls forced her to loop back. A detour brought Haruhi past the building that gave her pause. It tugged at her memory. Excited chatter, cousins pointing at clan symbols, Shisui's voice explaining what each one meant, until it clicked. This was Yugao's building. Though it's not like she was any more eager to tell Yugao of her failure than her friends, so Haruhi kept walking. She picked up groceries, watched the civilians start closing shops. The sky darkened and windows were lighting up one by one, the blowing evening air making the power lines sway between roofs. As she passed the bar, she glanced over at the celebrations that had spilled into the street. "May the bastard rot!" a woman cheered, clicking her glass with another ninja. A straw doll hung from a noose tied to a street sign, dressed up with a long black wig, purple markings smeared around the eyes, a slashed forehead protector and a tag pinned to its Konoha vest with a scribbled, "Dead Sunny." The tipsy ninjas were using it for target practice. A man with a sake bottle in one hand and a cigarette in his mouth casually flicked a kunai. It embedded itself into the doll's eyes. "Good one, Asuma!" They should take it indoors. Haruhi turned away from the bar towards the speaker across the street. A couple older ninjas, a man and a woman, were watching the younger ninjas with that universal look of disapproval known to all parents. "Orochimaru-sama was one of us," the woman said briskly. "Not since he betrayed the village," the blonde man replied. "Still, call me a party pooper, but I find it tactless to celebrate the death of a legend at the hands of the Uchiha Nukenin, especially the Okage's son." "What?" Haruhi quickened her pace, following them before they could turn the corner. Excuse me! Realizing they were being tailed, they halted. "Us? What do you need, kiddo?" "What did you say about the Uchiha Nukenin?" "Uchiha Itachi?" The brisk-voiced woman exchanged a quick look with the man. When he shrugged, she took it as permission. "I guess the cat's out of the bag anyway. They say he killed Orochimaru of the Sannin." "Who's that? Is he related to Jiraiya of the Sannin?" "Orochimaru was Jiraiya's teammate, kiddo," the man explained. "Those two and Tsunade Hime were the Okage's students once, but Orochimaru turned to crime and treason." "He betrayed Konoha," the woman filled in, sniffing unimpressed. "And see where that landed him, Going off and getting himself killed by another criminal. A child criminal at that. And they called him a genius." "Young or old, let the criminals tear each other apart, I say," the man said. "As if we don't have enough to handle at TNI. Still, the secrets that man took to his grave." "Where?" Haruhi pressed, because they were getting off track. The ninja blinked. "Where's TNI? Why do you want to know that? You're too young to be asking. You can't be much older than my little girl Ino, and she knows more about Flower Code than TNI." "I didn't mean TNI, ninja-san." She forced her impatience down. These strangers didn't owe her answers, and a sure way to get turned away was being snappish. "I mean, could you please tell me where Itachi killed that Sannin? Was it close to Konoha?" "No, I think it was up north, near the Land of Lightning," the woman said. "I heard it was by the border between lightning and frost," the blonde added. The tightness in Haruhi's throat loosened. Far. Itachi was far from Konoha, far from her and far from Sasuke. Itachi was traveling, meeting other criminals and causing problems elsewhere. Maybe that meant Itachi wasn't looking to finish what he started in Konoha? Even so, He traveled far just to kill more Konoha shinobi. Even if this Orochimaru guy had been a traitor, Haruhi felt a flicker of pity for him. Over by the bar, a ninja raised another toast. I thought Orochimaru was too slippery to die, but the stain in our great village has finally been eliminated. Hear, hear! They sounded almost admiring. Her stomach churned. In a roundabout way, those Konoha ninjas were celebrating something Itachi done. I see. Thank you for explaining. Haruhi bowed and turned to leave. Hey kiddo, why do you want to know— Oh. The man trailed off, catching the Uchiha fan on her back. Never mind. Have a good evening, Uchiha-san. Haruhi took the back alleys home, drifting further away from the scattering footfalls, the shimmering of bar lanterns and chatter, running without break towards the Uchiha district. She passed the gates where the streetlights no longer turned on. There was never lights in the windows. Everything had shut down after that night. However, a small shadow sat along the fence, his silhouette barely visible under the moonlight. Where were y'all? Inku meowed, imitated. It's dark, and there was a crow on the hill. Sorry. Haruhi held up her hand, and the cat leapt onto her arm, claws piercing into her shirt, lightly scratching her skin. Haruhi kept running while Inku balanced on her shoulder. The darkness didn't slow her pace. Haruhi could navigate these streets blindfolded. Might even prefer not seeing the abandoned houses and neglected streets. Did you catch the crow? Yes, the cat purred. It was a scrawny one. On the eve of the massacre, Inku was out hunting in the forest, and only seen the end of the carnage from a distance. The cat had enough self-preservation instincts to know there was nothing he could do against Itachi, but his crows were another matter. Inku had purged the district of crows. The cat knew not all black birds were Itachi's summons, but he thought it better to be safe than sorry. It was probably overkill, even paranoia, but Haruhi wouldn't ask Inku to stop either. She slept a little better, knowing Inku was prowling the street, taking out Itachi's little birds. Haruhi drew closer to the only building where warm light spilled from the windows. Sasuke! Haruhi called, kicking off her shoes in the hallway. I'm in the kitchen, Haruhi! Inku hopped off her shoulders and disappeared upstairs, while Haruhi kept straight ahead, entering the kitchen where her cousin was preoccupied. With his mum's old apron on, a scarf tied around his head, Sharingan activated and cloth in hand, Sasuke was balancing atop two chairs placed on top of each other to clean the kitchen lights. A leg on the top chair was about to slide off the bottom seat, so Haruhi dropped the groceries on the counter and steadied it until Sasuke finished. He gave it a good scrub, muttering about grime gathering from cooking. There, he said, satisfied, hopping down onto the tatami. Itachi's killing ninjas of no— They'd spoken over each other. What about him? Sasuke urged, at once distracted. Haruhi summarized what she'd overheard, and highlighted the most crucial part at the end. So Itachi's traveled pretty far away. Sasuke nodded, his complexion paler than normal. And meeting up with other criminals. Even criminals aren't safe around Itachi. He'll kill anyone, won't he? Haruhi said, though she knew that wasn't strictly true. For whatever reason, pity, mockery, or something worse, Itachi had left Sasuke alive. Talk about bad luck though. Two Nukenin fight it out and the wrong one wins. If only that Sannin killed Itachi, maybe he could have made up for some of the bad stuff that made him go rogue to begin with. Haruhi said heavily, unpacking the groceries. Whatever Orochimaru had done to get labeled a missing ninja, it couldn't have been as bad as Itachi. I'm glad, Sasuke said quietly. Haruhi halted mid-reach, a dead fish in one hand and a kitchen knife in the other. Because I'm going to be the one to kill him, her cousin specified. Haruhi set the blade to the belly of the fish. I don't care how it happens, she said. You can kill him, or Itachi can piss off the wrong Nukenin and get himself killed that way, or better yet, may he trip down the stairs and break his neck. She slid the knife through the pink flesh, gutting it from stern to head, not dissimilar to what Itachi once did to her. As long as Itachi dies. And if none of those came to pass, Haruhi would try too. This world wasn't big enough for both Haruhi and Itachi. One had to die. Neither could live while the other survived. Could you get out the cauldron? She asked, pointing with the knife towards the cabinet. I bought ingredients to make Dad's fish dish. Sasuke fetched it. Here, and it's called a pot, Haruhi. Pot, not cauldron. What's the difference? The difference is... Sasuke glanced between Haruhi and the black cauldron. That's a pot. You knew what I meant and brought the right one, Haruhi muttered. Sasuke lingered, watching Haruhi get to work without helping. What? She asked. How did that test go? Sasuke asked. You haven't said. Haruhi took a deep breath. It was time to face the music. I didn't pass. You're expelled? Sasuke wasn't surprised at all. Maybe a little annoyed, but not surprised. Of all the reactions she'd feared, this was the worst. No, Haruhi said, talking so quietly soon only dogs would hear. But they're holding me back a grade. I'll be starting in your class. Sasuke's mouth fell open. Eventually, several nerve-wracking seconds later, he ended on an accepting sort of... Alright. Alright? Alright. He repeated, grabbing the other knife and starting on the carrots. The following Monday morning, instead of Haruhi waving farewell to Sasuke after breakfast, she left the house too. They walked together through the still district, past the dark windows, overgrown lawns and boarded up bakery, the senpai sign stained and dirty. No one greeted them, until Inku joined them by the gates. Do you have something to do in the village, Inku? It's our first day, Meow. Inku said simply, blacktail swishing, following them all the way through Konoha to the academy, where she waved farewell to her cats. Her parents and Shisui couldn't, but a warmth filled her chest that Inku had wanted to accompany her in their stead. It was short-lived, but there. She trailed after Sasuke down the corridor, everything painfully familiar yet off. She was heading to classroom with Sasuke instead of Taiko, going to classroom G instead of classroom C. Through the crowd she caught glimpses of Shiho and Tenten, but Haruhi couldn't follow. She still resented this, felt it was too much, but complaining wouldn't get her anywhere. Haruhi had the deal. Everyone, meet your new classmate, Iruka-sensei told the crowd of kids. I expect you'll give her a warm welcome. Her new classmates stared at Haruhi like she was a boa constrictor in a zoo. To her, they were a blend of semi-familiar faces mixed with complete strangers. A class she didn't know. Maybe if she let them ogle, take in her scarred face and sate their curiosity quickly, she'd become old news faster. Why don't you introduce yourself? My name's Uchiha Haruhi. It's nice to meet you. She bowed at the waist, hair falling into her eyes before she stood up again, parroting what was expected of the new girl. Please take care of me. Hey, it's you! Naruto pointed at her from the back row. The bastard sister! Hi, Whiskers. Iruka Sensei had the whole class introduce themselves in turn, where Haruhi caught and remembered about a quarter of the names dropped on her, before everyone went outside for a fun game of troops and hoops so Haruhi can get to know everyone. On their way out in the yard, Haruhi twisted and turned, trying to catch the faces around her and put a name to who was who. The girl with purple hair was Amy, while a pink-haired girl's name was either Fuki or Sakura. Uzumaki Naruto needed no reminders. But the guy with red fang tattoos on his face and a puppy hanging off of his shoulder was from the Inuzuka clan. And though his name evaded Haruhi, his dog's name was Akamaru. Generally, there were more clan kids here than in her former class, almost 3 times as many. Besides the Inuzuka, there were Shino of the Abarame clan, a Yamanaka girl, Akemichi Choji, and Shikamaru from the Nara clan. Of course, Sasuke and Haruhi were Uchihas, and there was another Hyuga here. Her name was Hinata. She's a Hyuga then, Haruhi whispered to Sasuke. Who? The girl in the back, Hinata. Sure, it's her name, isn't it? Like Hyuga Neji, her eyes are the Byakugan too. Is she strong? Is she giving you trouble on the rankings? Her? Sasuke had actually laughed at that. No, she's spineless. Haruhi assumed Sasuke had exaggerated, but the joke was on Haruhi there. Never judge a book by its cover, some said, and that saying could be implicated here too. Don't judge a ninja by their bloodline. They went outside to the usual field, where Iruka divided the class so Haruhi was on the opposite team from Sasuke. This is going to be hard, Choji complained. We're really outmatched today. Sasuke's team's going to win, Shikamaru agreed. That's too early to say, Haruhi disagreed. Postponing the inevitable loss is such a waste of energy, Shikamaru drawled. Haruhi shook her head. What's with your attitude? Going into a game with a losing mindset is just a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's based in probability. Probability? Haruhi smirked. If the world really followed probability, I'd be dead. Sasuke's team had Akamaru and his human, as well as Naruto, the pink-haired girl, Shino, Amy, and some boys whose names had gone in one ear and out the other. She had no idea. Shikamaru shrugged. You'll see. You're on the losing team today. Shikamaru pointed between himself and Akemichi Choji. We're what could be classified as best on our team, but we'll still get crushed by Sasuke. And you don't look like much either. I don't look like much? Haruhi glared. Shikamaru looked her up and down, blinking at the pace of a sloth. Well, no. Honestly, you look kinda weak. And you look average. Height, posture, the way you walked. Haruhi didn't think she'd seen anyone more average looking. Thanks. Shikamaru perked up as if he took that as flattery. That scar of yours must be from a very serious injury. Didn't you just say you should be dead? I assume you've recently recovered, or are still recovering, which meant you're probably weaker than you were before that scar. So yeah, you look pretty weak. Haruhi spluttered. What a rude jerk! As if you'll want to talk, Shikamaru! Yamanaka Anu said. Or was her name Enju? The girl marched up to Shikamaru with a determined set to her jaw, throwing her pale hair over her shoulder. I never said it was anything to brag about either. Shikamaru took a cautionary step away. You're not the best at anything, lazy bone! Enju said angrily. You're almost as bad as Naruto, and he's on the other team. Sasuke-kun will be tough to fight, but at least we can take that jerk. Shikamaru groaned. Why do I bother? People can't handle hearing the truth. Enju-san has a point, Shikamaru-san, Haruhi said. We don't know who'll win before we try. Who's Enju? Choji asked and pointed at the blonde. You mean her? My name isn't Enju, Haruhi. It's Ino. Oh, my bad. The game started and Sasuke implemented a similar strategy to what Haruhi favored, namely having the best students, himself, take out the opponents with a squishy ball, while the scoring balls were left to the defense to guard and play. In the first 10 minutes, Sasuke took out the majority of Haruhi's team, hitting Shikamaru in the head, Enju in the back, Hinata in the leg, before Choji lost track of the squishy ball on their side, and Akamaru's human grabbed the ball and hit Haruhi out. Soon only Choji was left alone for Sasuke to shoot him into timeout too, leaving everyone on Haruhi's team in timeout at once. I tried to warn you, Shikamaru muttered when Choji joined them. Haruhi watched the clock avidly, counting down the seconds of everyone's timeout. Shikamaru had been one of the first out, so his break was seconds away from finished. Go! Haruhi said when the handle struck the number 12, pushing Shikamaru over the sideline to the field. Why? What do you mean, why? Your timeout is over! Haruhi reminded him of the obvious. You have to play again. Try take out Akamaru's human. You mean Kiba? There's no point. Oof! He'd barely stepped on the field before Sasuke hit Shikamaru in the stomach so hard he toppled over. Her cousin smirked, while the girls on his team swooned and the boys cheered. You okay, Shikamaru? Choji asked, leaning over his friend. No, I'm injured, Shikamaru lied, holding up his little finger. There was a tiny cut on it. I better stay here and rest until class is over. If he's hurt, he should rest. A voice squeaked from somewhere. Haruhi turned left and right, trying to locate just who had spoken. She couldn't place the voice to any face she'd heard so far. Thanks, Hinata, Shikamaru muttered. Haruhi had to peer around Choji to find the timid Hyuga girl hunched behind him, twiddling her fingers. Really? I'm trying to motivate the team here, and everyone's slacking or making excuses. Hinata blushed a pale pink and shuffled away. Neji would never bother with such nonsense. It was beneath him. And the stark difference between the two Hyugas almost made Haruhi miss her old rival. Almost. Haruhi put her hands on her hips and looked unimpressed down at Shikamaru. Has anyone told you you're a really bad liar, Shikamaru-san? Actually, no. I'm a pretty decent actor. If this is your best acting, I wouldn't try my chances as a movie star just yet. Alright, you got me. Why don't you leave me here to feel bad about that? Shikamaru suggested. Anything to get out of contributing. Fine, just stay out of the team's way. Haruhi huffed. I swear, I'll take the dead last over dead weight any day. Shikamaru heaved himself into a sitting position and turned to Choji. Who made her team captain? It's only a stupid game. He muttered like a perturbed brat who got his way and still didn't find it good enough. Iruka-sensei had ordered the other team to the opposite side until the next timeout was done. But even with distance, they retained full control of all the balls. They were winning and knew it. Several were jeering and giving each other high fives, as if Sasuke wasn't carrying the whole team by himself, with occasional assists from Dogboy, Akamaru's human. Kiba, was it? Haruhi paced the sideline impatiently until she could get back into play. She had played similar games before, but she was used to being on the winning team. Enju and her friends barely took one step on the field before they were back in timeout. Hinata managed to dodge Kiba's ball, but was caught by Sasuke 2 steps later. And then it was Haruhi's turn back. Kiba smirked. You'll soon be back on the sidelines, kitty, he hollered, his puppy barking in agreement. Kiba raced the ball in anticipation, ready to throw the instant Haruhi stepped into play. Naruto pointed at their team, laughing obnoxiously. We're gonna win! You're all a bunch of losers! Losers! We're so awesome, we beat you so easily! The handle struck 12. Haruhi stepped forwards, her hands going into seals. Replacement jutsu! The chakra flung Haruhi away, making her replace with one of the practice logs. The ball banged into the pole and bounced away. What the hell? Woof! The new girl used ninjutsu! The class couldn't keep up with her replacement jutsu, none except Sasuke. Red eyes locked on her even before Haruhi landed, his arms flinging out in a jerky throw, and then it missed by at least half a meter. The ball bounced once on the floor before Haruhi snapped it up, anger flaring abrupt and hot. You... Haruhi was so upset she couldn't even get the insult out through gritted teeth. Sasuke had missed her on purpose. He might as well have bitch-slapped her in front of the Hokage and it'd be less insulting. He didn't think she could do even this? Treating her with kid gloves even for a bloody kids game. Haruhi whirled around, the nearest opponents backing off. Instead of throwing at any of them, Haruhi aimed at a pink-haired girl who was reaching for Kiba's dropped squishy ball. You're out, Sakura! Iruka-sensei called. The game continued. Haruhi managed to avoid getting hit, things heating up when Sasuke copied her replacement jutsu. The two competing to get the squishy balls while the rest ducked for cover or got in the way. Some by accident, others on purpose. At least she put a temporary pause to Naruto's irritating jeering when she hit him square in the face with the squishy ball. You're out, Naruto! Iruka said, just as a few of Haruhi's teammates were back on the field. No! Naruto scurried off the field in dramatics, swearing vengeance against Haruhi by means of a fart pillow. Nice work taking out those losers, Haruhi! The blonde girl whooped. You could get the timer ball, Inju-san! It's Ino! Sorry, just try to get the ball and I'll cover you, Ino-san. Haruhi used the remaining squishy ball to take out the quiet Aburame guy, but it hardly made a difference. How many players were on the field didn't decide victory, it was how many points the team gathered. Though Haruhi put her all into turning the tide, she just couldn't tip the scale in their favor, since every time she took some people out, the opposition would restructure, adapt, and counter from too many sides, pushing her back. And in the end, Sasuke was the one to hit her, the squishy ball bouncing off her shoulder and sending her into a second timeout. You're out, Haruhi! She dragged her feet and flopped onto the floor, groaning as she buried her face in her hands. Jeez, relax, girl. This isn't that serious, Shikamaru drawled. I told you, it's just a game. Except it wasn't. It was her life, and it highlighted everything Haruhi'd become. The loser. Haruhi remained in the academy's practice yard long after everyone had gone home, taking advantage of having the equipment all to herself. Maybe Haruhi was trying to prove them wrong, maybe herself. But instead of going home for dinner, she went through the exercises she'd been set to do on that fateful test one more time, trying to figure out where she'd gone so wrong it stuck her in a class she shouldn't be in. So she did the push-ups, sit-ups, acrobatics and rope climbing exercise, the obstacle run and the katas. She did it all again, but already warm from her first day back, she somehow ended up doing worse. By the time Haruhi reached the target posts, she was dizzy, her stomach hollow with hunger. But she reached for her weapon pouch anyway. Shuriken Jutsu was an Uchiha's specialty, something Haruhi'd once excelled at. With one in each hand, Haruhi threw them at the circles painted on the posts. Middle ring, dead center, miss, middle ring, outer ring. Ah! Clutching the last shuriken, Haruhi rushed at the post, thrusting the edge into the heart of the circle. It sank deep. With gritted teeth, Haruhi wrenched the shuriken out, but her hand slipped, the blade's edge slicing her palm. Somehow, the blood and gash only pissed her off more, and she punched the dead center. Ouch! That hurt, damn it! Her knuckles stung, and nothing worked anymore! She'd used to compete over how many shurikens she could get into the dead center, not this averageness. And when the enemy out for her head was the likes of Itachi and the Masked Man, averageness would get her killed, would get others killed too. Breathing hard and knowing it was her worst idea yet of the evening, Haruhi forced chakra into her eyes, making her head throb. The wooden post went vividly clear. She could see the fresh wounds from her shuriken, the minuscule droplets of blood, the winding groves pattern of the bark traceable underneath the flaking paint, only for a crack to shoot across her mind, loud and grating. Her vision flickered off, on, off. Something wasn't right. Her sightlines swirled, nausea hit like a sledgehammer, and when her vision was back to its regular self, Haruhi bent at the waist and hacked up stomach acids. It still evaded her. Her Sharingan failed. Again. It wouldn't work. Why wouldn't it work? She had them. On the worst night of her life, she'd activated her Sharingan. She was positive. Then Itachi cut into her head. Her eyeballs remained intact, but the eyes are an extension of the brain. The optic nerve and chakra pathway ran a direct connection between the eyes and brain. The retina is also part of the central nervous system, brain and spinal cords, making the eyes the brain's window to the world. The medics weren't sure exactly where the problem was, but it was obvious Itachi's strike had messed up something vital. Haruhi wasn't blind, but somehow her eyes weren't working right. Just like her aiming wasn't right. Her kicks, hits, her fighting, and everything she used to be good at. Itachi took everything. She hated him so deeply. More than she hated Peter Pettigrew. More than Voldemort. It wasn't in the fiery, rageful way Sasuke did. It was like ice or emptiness. Like her very own Dementor, Itachi could suck the happiness out of the brightest day, grasping for her soul. Her pulse was calming down, her breathing less ragged. Curse Itachi for making her this way, twisting every achievement into setbacks and failure. Curse your eyes, Itachi, Haruhi swore. The phrase was an old Uchiha saying, swearing really, but something she didn't really hear anyone say anymore. Yet she willed the words into truth. Magic was intent after all. She had to mean it. And I'll curse you, Itachi. One day. Who's Itachi? Haruhi's heart nearly leapt out of her chest. She thought she was alone. Slowly, her face turning pink as sakura petals, Haruhi turned around to see Rock Lee. How long had he been there? Itachi is my cousin. Why do you want to curse your cousin? Lee asked. Because he killed our family? Because he trusted him and he repaid it by killing her and gifting her a head wound that screwed up her Sharingan. Itachi made me fail my tests. Was he going to help you study? No. Haruhi sighed. If he was going to be noisy, it was better to get it over with. He's in Nuknin, Lee-san. He killed Taiko. He gave me this. She pointed to her face. Exhibit A. Oh. Lee put down his bag. I'm sorry about your test, Haruhi-chan, and your cousin. Lee retrieved a jumping rope from his bag. It was self-explanatory, but it seemed Lee was there to train too. He grabbed the handle in each hand and started without further ado. 1, 2, 3, 4. countered under his breath.
Really? That's it? He was going to leave it at that?
Unsure, Harry ran back to the target poles, picking up her wayward shuriken. When she'd collected everything and returned to her starting spot, Lee was still jumping, not prying at all, actually. Maybe they were just different, but Harry figured if her classmate told her their cousin tried to kill them, she'd at least ask some follow-ups, not just leave it at, "Sorry about your cousin." Haruhi wasn't even sure whether he was sorry about Itachi or Taiko. Fine then. If he was going to train, so would she. Middle ring. Outer ring. Miss! Getting pissed off again, Harry rolled around from the post. "Lee-san, how come your grades are so bad?" Lee's rope caught on his foot, dangling around his leg so he fell. Ouch. "Sorry." Lee untangled his leg and got right back up. "Not everyone is lucky enough to be born into a special bloodline," Lee said stiffly. "Some of us have to actually work to earn our way." "Are you saying I didn't work for it?" Like she hadn't been training since she was in diapers. What did Lee think she had been doing for 3 years, struggling to keep Neji from overtaking her ranking? Painting her nails? Did Lee think that came for free? That he hadn't earned it too? Who was he to minimize a lifetime of diligent work? To, "She was only good because of her blood"? Did he think he alone spent hours training? Lee glanced at her scar, some hint of uncertainty revealing itself in his voice. "Maybe you must now, but I'm sure being part of an elite clan makes that easier too." "Shows what you know. Even if she was born an Uchiha, that didn't mean she didn't train hard. Talent might come for free, but it means squat if it isn't honed, while skills are earned. Skills must be maintained too, because it'll be lost if you stop training." She waved at her face. "If you get injured." There was only one person Harui knew who'd been good before training, and his name was Uchiha damn Itachi. Yet even Harui acknowledged that though Itachi had been perfect on his first attempts in everything he tried, he'd still worked to make perfection into monstrous skills. While people like Sasuke, though talented and gifted too, had to actually work to stay strong. That's what differed between the brothers. While Itachi was an effortless genius, Sasuke was a genius through effort. It's what made it so impossible to catch up. What do you do when the overwhelmingly gifted prodigy also happened to be a hard worker? How can anyone compete with that? Or were she and Sasuke kidding themselves? Was it just a naive dream to try to beat him? Haruhi wanted to give Lee an earful of the unfair reality he seemed blinded to, but another side of her understood where the defensiveness came from. Lee got bullied at school. Haruhi had never joined in on it, but she'd never helped either. Did Lee think she was making fun of him? "I'm not making fun or anything. You're just wrong about clan talent being some get-out-of-training free card." "You wouldn't understand," Lee sighed. "Not without being in my shoes." "Actually, Lee-san, I think you're the one who doesn't understand, because you haven't been in mine," Haruhi said. She didn't want to argue, but he was just so wrong. It's not that she didn't understand the sort of obstacles Lee'd have to work with, but he seemed blind to hers. "The academy made me do a test because I wanted to come back to class after my injuries. And well, I failed it," she bit out. "So isn't my failed test proof untrained talent wasn't enough to keep up?" She looked at him humorously. "I was cut down, and the road back's been horrible. I've become so weak. I even failed that test when a year ago I'd have done it for a warm-up. My talent didn't change, but my skills did. My injuries got in the way of keeping up with my training. Lee couldn't immediately dismiss that. He was finally listening. I am sorry, Harui-chan. That must have been hard. And you must be sad about Taiko-san too. But surely your clan helps. With Uchiha clan— What clan? Harui spat in disbelief, interrupting whatever misinformed nonsense Lee was about to suggest. Itachi and this other guy killed everyone, Lee-san! Even the babies! Even grandparents! It's just me and my cousin Sasuke left alive! Lee was taken aback, as if he genuinely hadn't known the severity. What had they been told? Did they think Harui fell on her head and cracked it in two? How did the class think Taiko died? Had only Shiho taken the time to ask around? Lee's expression went from suspicious to that familiar mask of pity. Harui wasn't sure which was worse. And after all that, they kicked you out over a single failed test? Not exactly, but they're not allowing me back into our class. I've fallen too far behind. I had my first day back today, in the grade below ours, and I still got my ass beaten in troops and hoops. Harui admitted, not even sure why she'd tell Rock Lee, of all people, any of this. So I really wasn't making fun of you, Lee-san, she explained. Because though you were behind the curve back in our first year, I know you work hard, and that's what matters in the long run. So I just don't understand what's happening with your grades. How are you did that last? Lee remained silent, but not because he wanted to get away or avoid the question. No, he seemed more like he was reevaluating everything he'd known about Harui and the situation. But wasn't she doing the same? Lee wasn't quite who she thought he was either. I want to be a great ninja, but my grandpa is a civilian, he told her awkwardly. You live with him? I do. My parents died in the Nine-Tails attack. They weren't ninjas either, so I'm the first in my family. Being raised a civilian kid explained why Lee had been dead last in their first year, but he'd never managed to improve his grades, which didn't add up to her. Even before she got hurt, Harui could tell from his improved stamina and endurance during taijutsu classes that Lee worked hard, slowly catching up with everyone who had a head start, through consistent, rigorous training that took extreme self-discipline. Yet, how could someone who'd come so far have such bad grades to show for it? My grandpa's not around much, Lee admitted. But you managed without him, Harui mused. Considering how hopelessly clumsy Lee started out, it was a significant improvement. Even before I was attacked, I noticed you'd gotten better, Lee-san, and it seems you're still working hard. It shows. Lee stared at her without blinking, to her great uneasiness. Harui-chan? His voice broke on her name, lips wobbling, and he was tearing up. Oh no. You think so? Yes? And that set off the waterworks. Big, broken sobs and unabashed emotions set loose. Not anger or rage either, the sort of outlet Harui was more familiar with. This was just pure emotions. Lee was bawling his eyes out, but smiling? Lee sobbed. Holy crap! What did she do? Was he sad? Happy? Relieved? Frustrated? All of it? Alarmed, Harui edged backwards. I know how you feel, Harui-chan. I can't use jutsu. Lee hiccuped, drying his tears while still somehow smiling. Had no one ever said a kind word to the boy? Lee had a bigger outlet to a passing compliment than Harui'd seen Sasuke have to their clan's massacre. Right, that's too bad. Harui was trying to think of an excuse to leave, when what he said actually registered. Wait, you can't use jutsu? What? Lee nodded, sniffing even as another wave of tears flowed down his flushed cheeks. It's my chakra network. I was born with a defect, and it can't be fixed. Because of that, I'm not able to use genjutsu or ninjutsu. I never will. Haruhi sat on that, the pieces starting to make sense. And yet, how was Lee in the academy then? More than half the classes were about chakra. Was he failing them all, but clambering himself onto the rankings anyway? No wonder he was dead last. It was like participating in a Quidditch match without a broom, like going to Hogwarts with a broken wand. And Ron could testify just how little he could get out of his second year. That had been an entire year of magical education wasted. But Lee couldn't just buy himself a new wand, couldn't get himself a broom. The thing that didn't work right was inside his body. That's bloody unfair. He'd been screwed over since birth then, unlike Haruhi, who was just screwed over later on. No, Lee disagreed. It's a challenge, Haruhi-chan, and one I will overcome. Then I'll prove I can be an excellent ninja with taijutsu only. How's that worked out so far? I'm still dead last. Haruhi shook her head in disbelief. How did he do it? Was he just delusional? Well, strictly speaking, a dead last might be the slowest in a race, coming in behind everyone else crossing the finish line, but at least they finished. Or else they were like Haruhi, a failure. How do you stand it, Lee? Where's your belief coming from? Haruhi asked, crossing her arms. Has anything you worked for actually happened? Like, ever? Have you been the best in taijutsu class yet? Won against Neji at anything? No. There's no guarantee all this hard work will get you anywhere. In fact, everything points at you being left behind sooner or later. So why are you so confident anything will get better? Lee shrugged. Because it must. There's nothing else for me. Complaining won't get me anywhere. He looked at her pointedly. I just have to get better. Haruhi's eyes narrowed. How weird. The way Lee spoke almost made him sound like her dad. You don't remember? Lee asked. No? That's what you say, Haruhi-chan. I've heard you say that several times. Don't complain, just go get better. I thought... Lee chuckled, sheepish. I thought you were being mean, but you hold yourself to the same expectations, don't you? You're hard on yourself too. I used to. Merlin's beard. Had Haruhi been parroting that around class so often Lee could quote it? My dad used to say that to me, she told Lee. He said that a lot, but then Dad would have had some fierce competition growing up. Maybe that's where he adopted that mindset from. How so? My dad's teammate was a Yondaime, Lee-san. I never thought about it before, but... Well, imagine being compared with that sort of genius your whole career, Was that it? Was Namikaze why her dad had always fallen back on that mantra? Don't complain, just train harder. Haruhi hadn't learned though. She'd been whining a lot at Lee this evening. Complained to Momo, to Shiwa and Tenten, to Sasuke. While I still complain and get no stronger. That's not true, Lee said. You're overcoming your injuries. You're coming back to the academy with a warrior scar. As nice as that sounds, it means shit, Lee-san. Haruhi snorted, complaining again. Even my dad saying about go get strong and stop complaining made no difference to him either. It was his teammate who became the Hokage, the strongest in the village, not him. And then he lost when Itachi came, And I? Do you know how much difference being the top of my year made when it mattered? About a second. Haruhi sneered, an ungodly amount of spite spilling out. She wasn't supposed to complain. She knew it didn't change anything. But it was also maddeningly unfair. Because I worked my whole life, top scoring student and everything, but all my efforts, hard work and accomplishments got tossed out the damn window. It took me 8 years to get there, and 1 second for Itachi to undo it all, because he's stronger. And if Haruhi felt 8 years of hard work was a lot, how much worse had it been for her dad? All decades of effort ended in seconds. Mum, her aunt and uncle, the Uchiha, made into failures in mere hours. It dawned on Haruhi with the clarity of a switch turning on, illuminating angles she'd never even known to inspect, because there was a side of her dad she'd noticed but never understood. Her dad had been strong, a jonin, but that masked man had killed him, or Itachi. But she assumed it was the masked man who'd been in her house. Maybe Namikaze Minato had been the Itachi type of genius her dad could never quite measure up to. And as an Uchiha, being number 2 was never really good enough. It was almost ironic in a really sad way. Because while her dad was alive, Haruhi had strived so hard to win and be what her father expected. Top of her year, striving to be number 1 in every class, believing it'd make her like dad. But he hadn't been, couldn't have. History was quite clear on who stood the best and brightest of that generation, and his name was Namikaze Minato, not Uchiha Kaji. Even amongst the tragedy of the Uchiha massacre, people around the village recalled Fugaku or Mikoto amongst the deceased, but her mum or dad's names never came up. While dad's teammate? Haruhi peered up over the village, over the roofs to the stone face carved into legend. How unfair. They'd started in the same class, served the same team, fought the same war. Yet all her dad got in death was a few letters on a gravestone, while Namikaze got a mountain. In an ironic twist, it was first now Haruhi was finally starting to understand him, as if she was closer to her dad in defeat than she'd been in all those years of victories. Dad hadn't pushed her in Shisui because he wanted them to be like him. He'd done it so they'd not end up like him, because he'd been the runner-up, the one falling behind the genius. Who could ever win a race against someone said to be as fast as a yellow flash? Even the best left in the dust, like what happened to her. Even now, trying to train myself back to what I used to be, I failed, Lee. I still ended up thrown out of the race. I've been kicked down a grade. You realize it makes me worse than a dead last, right? She muttered bitterly. At least the dead last finishes, and isn't made to repeat the whole damn race. Are you giving up then? Lee wondered. No. It wasn't an option. Itachi was still out there. You don't sound very sure to me. Lee observed her closely. I asked, are you giving up then? Would training make a difference though? Or would Itachi, no matter how much Haruhi improved, always win? Everyone knew the end of that riddle. Haruhi didn't stand a chance. You know what? No, as I'm not dead, I'm not giving up. A smile broke across Lee's face. That's the spirit! Haruhi snorted. The bar wasn't very high, but at least it was something. What was that thing Shio said about insanity again? Insanity was to keep doing the same thing over and over but expect a different outcome? Haruhi guessed that made her insane. But it's not like she was alone there. She glanced at Lee, chuckling. They were all mad here. We're not in a race, it's a marathon. Endurance is what matters, Lee declared, growing more energized for every word. Pace yourself, but never lose sight of the goal, even if it takes a little longer, even if you must struggle through this detour. As long as you stay on course, you'll get there. Right. Haruhi entertained the idea, allowing herself to soak up some of Lee's energy. It was infectious. And honestly, he made a fair point. Being the best in class hadn't saved Yondaimi's life any more than her dad, had it? Somehow, Haruhi was still clinging on though. Neither the Rookie of the Year or the runner-up, but the dropout. Besides, Haruhi was more than a failed ninja in training. She was a witch with an incomplete Hogwarts education too. It's not the Academy's scores that matters, right Haruhi-chan? Lee said impassionate, eyeing her expectantly. Right. I can't hear your conviction, Haruhi-chan. Do you mean it? Yes! Haruhi shouted, not sure why she was going along with it. But why the hell not? Yosh! It's what the Academy prepares us for that'll prove the real competition. A stepping stone towards a final victory awaiting in our glorious future. She nodded sharply. Yeah! So what does matter? Lee challenged, pumping his fist. Beating the odds stacked against us. Exactly! And what's the goal we're working towards? Vengeance! Haruhi whooped, shadowboxing the air. Yes! What? No, that's not what I meant. Lee's brilliant smile slipped to a frown of deep concern. No? I meant that the real goal is becoming great ninjas. Oh. Haruhi blinked. But isn't it implied? Can't get revenge unless I'm a great ninja, you know? Itachi's a great ninja. A terrible one, yes, but great. And I can't make a difference unless I catch up. Or I need to become a witch. When I get that under control, I have a bad boogie spell with Itachi's name on it. I guess that's a plan, Lee said, seeming as if he'd lost the thread, especially about the witch part. He shook his head and chose to ignore the whole magic tangent. I must get back to my training now, Haruhi-chan. Yeah, me too. Do you want to join me? I find when I'm angry, punching a log makes me feel better, Lee added. It might for you too. She laughed. Sure, let's punch a log.